And you guys continue to talk about the story in the establishment press instead of talking about the president's agenda, which is by design.
So Bill Maher had Breitbart editor Alex Marlow on his show, and I thought it was a good interview because it sort of gave a window into the mind of a Breitbart reader. And in some ways, it mirrors the left and a lot of what we're feeling. So I have a few clips to break down here, about 5 different clips. So I'm going to break these down and just keep an open mind as you listen to Marlow.
You're also honest about being a right-wing organization, which Fox News is not. Okay. But you do ignore stories. Would you not agree to that? I mean, Russia's
by design. Yeah.
By design.
Yes,
okay,
on
at
purpose.
least that's honest. See,
Yes,
I appreciate that.
And I try to be consistent as we do at Breitbart News, and we're not going to cover the exact same stories the exact same way as all the other outlets. We'll leave that to the rest of the establishment press. We're very much anti-establishment, trying to highlight stories that we don't think get their fair day.
So just on the face of it, Marlow makes the case for why Breitbart covers what they cover. So as Mar mentioned, that they don't really cover Russia too much. And a large part of the reason for that is because it's covered a lot in mainstream media. Now, if you notice on my channel, I also don't really cover Russia. And it's for the same reason. It's covered enough in mainstream media. Now, it doesn't mean I don't think there's any merit to the Russia story. It doesn't mean I don't think it should be covered. But I personally have nothing to add to that conversation. And if you want to hear about Trump and you want to hear about Russia, there are many other outlets you can go to see that. And I also like the fact that he's being honest about where Breitbart stands on the spectrum. They are a right-wing news organization. They're honest about that. And I think it's good to have that sort of honesty because people, there's that innate trust in how you cover politics when you're upfront about what your opinion is. So, I mean, another good example is the Young Turks are upfront about being progressive. They're largely a progressive news organization. And what they try to do is get to the objective fact. So when Obama was in the White House, they would happily criticize him for anything he did wrong. And with Trump in the White House, they're happily criticizing him for anything he does wrong. And don't try to mimic what mainstream news is doing. Now, this next clip gets into what he believes the impact of Russia was on the election.
Russia absolutely was trying to interfere according to those agencies. I have no reason to doubt them. I have no extra insight beyond that. But is this something that is news to anyone?
Do you think Russia tipped the election?
I don't know if Russia tipped the election or not, but we know that what they released was true statements by Democrats that were incredibly embarrassing. And it's the sort of thing where the Democrats can look into.
So again, Marlow makes a pretty good point. The fact that these emails, sure, Russia may have been involved or were involved in releasing these emails, but the issue here is the contents of those emails. If there was nothing wrong with the contents of the DNC emails, then it wouldn't have affected the election. But because there was an issue, because it showed clear collusion between the Hillary campaign and the DNC to work against the Bernie campaign, then yeah, it probably affected the election somewhat. Now, do I think that's the only issue? No, and I don't think Bill Maher is going to get to the fact that that also was not the only issue for why Hillary lost. There are many reasons that Hillary lost. But it had some effect on the election. But that is really the fault of the DNC and how they worked against Bernie and their campaign, and not as much the fault of the release of those emails. Now, let's get to the next clip where Maher breaks down his argument for why Hillary lost.
I'm not saying the Democrats don't have problems. There are many compartments of this. They had a bad candidate, the Democrats, Hillary. I think she would have been a good president. Bad candidate. Okay. The Electoral College is fucked up. It was a year for the outsiders and liberals sulking about Bernie and bullshit about Hillary's the lesser of two evils. That's 4 compartments. But come on, Russia is the 5th compartment. You cannot claim to me that they did all this shit with the hacking and the emails and it didn't tip the election.
So I like Bill Maher in this clip. Now, I disagree with him in the sense that he was trying to make it seem like it was ridiculous for Bernie supporters to be angry about what happened. I think there was legitimate reason for Bernie supporters to have been angry. But I like the fact that Bill Maher actually breaks down each of the reasons that he thinks affected Hillary losing the election. Because this is what Maher normally does.
It does give us enough evidence to ask those liberals who couldn't bring themselves to vote for Hillary because she was the lesser of two evils, quite a bit lesser, wouldn't you say now?
He targets one specific thing for a show, and he makes it seem like that's the reason Hillary lost. So what he's done more recently is target progressives and Bernie supporters and people that voted Green, people that didn't like Hillary Clinton and didn't want to vote for her, or people that stayed home. Now, the issue with that is when you make it seem like that is the one issue that lost her the election, then it makes you sound like that Hillary was a perfect candidate and she should have won, and the only reason she lost is because Bernie supporters didn't come out and vote for her. And you're putting all the blame on the Bernie supporters and not putting the blame on Hillary Clinton and everything that she did wrong. Now, here he does spread the blame out more. Now, I don't know why. This is the issue with how Maher forms arguments. Maher will hit something and hit it and hit it and hit it and make you hate him. So if you're a Bernie supporter and you see a show where Maher is blaming Bernie supporters, then you're going to hate the guy. But if you see an argument like this where he actually properly forms a full argument and each of the pieces that led to Hillary Clinton losing, then he seems more reasonable. Even if there may be some disagreement on minor points of what you're saying, but we can understand and see that, yeah, finally, you actually do recognize that Hillary was a flawed candidate. So don't just put blame on Bernie supporters, or don't just put blame on Russia. Actually form the full argument, make the case, because you now seem more reasonable than you have been in the past. Now, this fourth clip gets into, well, let's watch it, and then I'll get into it.
If there's collusion, then we can have the impeachment conversation, but there's no demonstrable evidence of collusion. And you guys continue to talk about the story in the establishment press instead of talking about the president's agenda, which is by design, because you guys won't apologize if it turns out there's nothing. No one will come out on MSNBC. They'll just move on to the next hysteria. And that's a huge advantage for people like me who are covering the rest of the news.
Again, Marlow makes a great point there for why outlets like Breitbart can be successful, because they are focusing on other issues and they're not just ramming home this Russia story over and over again. They're talking about Trump and his policies. Now, the way they cover that, we may not agree with what their perspective is on that. But this is the thing. They actually do cover other stories, and they don't just focus on this one story and make it the linchpin of all their traffic. So by doing that, it mirrors what a lot of us on the left do. People like me who cover other topics and don't cover Russia. Just because we don't cover Russia doesn't mean we don't think it's a story. We're simply showing the fact that, you know what, mainstream media has this area covered. Now it opens up a spot for us to come in and talk about some other issues. And his point on MSNBC about they won't apologize if they get the story wrong, he's right. And it's not just MSNBC, it's also CNN and Fox News and whoever else is covering this. If they've been going this whole time pushing this idea that there probably most likely is collusion between Trump and Russia, if somehow there isn't and the investigation ends in however many months or years it takes, and it comes out that there was never collusion between the two, yeah, the media won't apologize for that. And I think that is an issue. I think if you make a mistake, especially if you put a lot of time into it, you should come out and apologize for getting it wrong. That way you actually build trust within your audience. The mistake that a lot of outlets make is they won't make an apology because they think it'll make themselves look weak or make themselves look untrustworthy, when it's actually the opposite. When you come out and you actually admit you were wrong about something, people are now more inclined to come back and read or watch you, because they'll know that if you make a mistake next time, you'll admit it, you'll say it, so they can actually trust the word that you're saying. Now, let's get to this last clip, because this last clip, both Alex Marlow and Bill Maher get this wrong. So just watch.
There's this play going on, Julius Caesar.
Yes.
Okay, and there's the guy who is portraying Caesar is dressed as Donald Trump. It's plainly Trump. Red tie down to his knee. Yes. Crazy hair. It's Trump, and of course Caesar gets stabbed. Now, I'm fond of saying to Republicans all the time, if Obama did it, but really, If Obama was Julius Caesar and he got stabbed, I think the liberals would be angry about that.
Oh, absolutely. It would be bedlam in the media.
So Bill Maher claims that if Obama played Julius Caesar, then liberals would be mad about that. And Alex Marlow says there would be bedlam. Well, Delta sponsored 2012 Guthrie Theater season, which featured Obama-inspired Julius Caesar. So even though Delta Airlines pulled funding from the Trump-inspired Julius Caesar, they didn't pull funding from when they did it with Obama in 2012 because there was no uproar about it. Nobody cared. So this is where I'm actually surprised Bill Maher didn't look into this more before making this sort of ridiculous claim. But this is where the Breitbarts of the world get it wrong. So just like everybody has a bubble, Breitbart has their own bubble. They see things from the right-wing perspective. So they don't see when the left does things that are akin to what the right do and how there is different outrage compared to the different sides. So there was this play. Obama did play Julius Caesar. He was stabbed, and liberals didn't care. And this Breitbart editor seems to think that it would be crazy. Liberals would be going nuts. No one cared. And this is that disconnect that a lot of these right-wing outlets and these conservatives have, is they don't understand that just because you act a certain way based on a story, because something happened or something in media is being portrayed a certain way, doesn't mean that the liberals would also act the same way. There's been a Bill Clinton Julius Caesar. There's been a Hillary Clinton Julius Caesar. There's been all these sorts of takes on the play, and there was no uproar about it. But because now conservatives are on this edge, they go crazy, and then they'll turn around and say, "Oh, there's not enough free speech. We need more free speech." Wait a second. Having this play go on, allowing this to go on, isn't this a free speech issue? Or does this not count because it's now Donald Trump and it's conservatives? I'm just saying, have a little introspection on how we actually react to stories in as far as liberals are concerned versus how conservatives react to stories. So just because Breitbart makes a good case for why they don't cover the same stories that the establishment media is covering doesn't mean that everything Breitbart covers is legitimate. Hey, I just want to give a quick shout out to Mumbo Jumbo 21. He is one of my Patreon members. He helps support the show. If you like what I'm doing, if you like this channel, then consider throwing me a few bucks on Patreon a month. It'll help support the show and you get some free content. So check it out. There's a link below the video and somewhere on the screen, probably about now.